The Hedgeless Horseman here. I thought I'd just do a quick video where I talk a bit about the latest news out of the grey mining and the Pilbara overall. So first off, we got the results from the grey mining's bulk sample exercise, and the bulk samples came in at an average of 3 grams per ton, which is basically along the lines of what Novo got. So I take that as a big positive, because that means that the mineralization might be homogeneous of about 3 grams per ton over a very large distance, because there's a long way from Common Well to Loudon's Patch. We can also see that the conglomerate they tested sits right above the Melina Basin Formation, which is an older sedimentary rock package. And the grey also had a news release of some drilling on their Forno JV ground, which also is of interest to Novo, of course. So this is White Quartz Hill, Gillies, Clark. What's interesting is that, as you can see here at White Quartz Hill, they got anomalous gold values starting right at surface, and most of these are shallow overall. And widespread gold anomalies. That's basically this part of this whole mineralized trend with big shear zones that cuts through the middle of the Pilbara, the central Pilbara. And you can see there's gold anomalies all along here. And we can also see from their schematics that a lot of the gold they're finding, it basically reaches the surface. So that ties into Novo's Egina model, whereas you can see here the Egina flats are basically alluvial deposits that sourced gold from, first of all, the conglomerate under Mount Rowe, and also, as have been mapped out here, quartz stringers and shear zones. I've seen some of these very narrow quartz veins myself when I was down there. I'm gonna try to put up some pictures in due time. So basically at Egina, the terrace lag gravel sits directly at or directly above the Melina group, and at Loudon's Patch the conglomerate sits right on top of the Melina group. So one can assume that at least part of the gold has been sourced from the older sedimentary rocks of the Melina Basin. And what's interesting about that is that this is Novo talking about the Mosquito Creek Basin, and as you can read here, Novo considered the gold in these veins to have been directly remobilized from gold-enriched sedimentary rocks of the Mosquito Creek Basin during a period of low-rank metamorphism and deformation following their deposition. So basically, Mosquito Creek is another sedimentary rock package which is right next to Beaton's Creek. This is Beaton's Creek. This is Mosquito Creek Formation. It's basically the same age as the Melina Formation you can see here in brown. And here we have Beaton's Creek, which has gold in the Hardy Formation. That's the purple stuff here. That's the Fortescue Basin. So basically I guess the idea is that the Mosquito Creek Formation hosted a lot of small gold veins that were formed during low-rank metamorphism and started out as gold-enriched sediment. And then the erosion basically deposited gold about here. There's some fault lines that go like this, and Noah basically staked the area that basically follows the fault line. So gold in here that through erosion and water action deposited gold into the Hardy Formation sedimentary package, or created a Hardy Formation sedimentary package. And over here we also have older, about the same age as the Mosquito Creek Formation sedimentary package of rocks. And Loudon's Patch is here basically, and as I said or showed, the conglomerates sits just on top of the Malina Formation. What's interesting is that if we assume that, as per the Egina model here, that there were quartz veins, etc., that probably helped feed the Mount Roe conglomerates, first of all with gold, but also helped feed the Egina gravel deposits even further through erosion, because if these veins went up to surface, which the gray has showed that they found veins in the area that reached the surface, so then one could assume that these veins reached all the way up to here and so forth. So when the ocean came in millions of years ago, it's first of all cut through the Mount Roe, then they cut through the conglomerates and released the gold, and then they cut through even further, like 20 meters of probably gold-bearing Malina Formation, which had these quartz stringers and shear zones, etc. Here you can see what they mean, that basically the surface used to be go here, and then the wave action came in and cut it all through down to here. So now we have these immense flats where the ocean basically flattened the area. And as you can see here, these are some very low degree angles. It kind of looks a bit different than the Loudon's Patch conglomerate angle, but that I think is because this was some kind of a sink or something that probably was a bit steeper, some kind of mini basin, I would guess, or at least some deep parts of the ocean that got filled up with a lot of sediments at a steeper angle. As some might know, I have had this quartz theory that you could basically perhaps track where the best spots to look for gold might be, and if we assume that Mosquito Creek Formation was metamorphized like Noah is saying here, then we could assume that there would be a lot of small quartz stringers, and when that eroded, it would have spread the quartz all over the place. And if that happened, that the same thing happened here in the Malina Basin, I guess there would also be a lot of quartz spread around, since as I said before, the gray has shown that they're finding a lot of gold, that basically a lot of gold in quartz that reaches the surface. So that makes it interesting when one uses the quartz filter, because you can keep in mind this is the Mosquito Creek Formation, sedimentary unit, metamorphized a lot of quartz vein stringers, and if the same happened here, which it looks like it did in at least in some way, then one could perhaps expect there to be a lot of quartz laying around. Let's just slide this again so you can see sedimentary rock packages in brown and gray. At least the older ones. These are also sedimentary, but these are the older ones, which might be the part of the source a while ago. It's pretty obvious to me, at least, that the high quartz reading basically follows the outline of the older sedimentary packages, and thankfully for us, seems to be a lot of quartz found in this area around Egina. And there was also a pretty interesting picture done by Pacton Gold, where they have mapped the alluvium and colluvium. So if you keep in mind that this is Egina, then you notice that there's a lot of colluvium and alluvium here, a bit less to the south, a bit less to the southeast, a bit less to the southwest, and to the southeast, and we go back. So if this is Egina, remember, east, north, northwest, basically a lot of colluvium, alluvium, and lesser to the south, southeast, southwest. That seems to be on point. So, if my theory is correct, I would assume that these brown areas would at least contain more than average amounts of gold sourced from the extensive quartz veins in the Melina Basin, and I guess that would be good spots to go hunt for these Egina lag gravels. It's possible that there are more gold bearing areas that doesn't contain that much quartz, but I would at least assume that the places that at least would have been enriched further by quartz gold from the Melina Formation would basically show higher quartz readings. And since that seems to be along the lines of this picture from Pacton Gold, I'll stick to that theory until proven otherwise. So, thanks for listening. Horseman out.